to the Truth and Love podcast. For centuries, the Lord's Supper has stood as a central pillar of Christian worship. Yet, those that adhere to the table as more than a sign should realize there is a thin theological line separating a means of grace from the doctrine of transubstantiation. When we suggest that the physical act of partaking in the bread and cup is the mechanical vehicle for receiving divine grace, we run the risk of tethering the spiritual life too closely to the digestive tract. To compare these views, one might argue you must eat to receive. In the Roman Catholic view of transubstantiation, the substance of the bread and wine literally becomes the body and blood of Christ. Therefore, the physical consumption is the direct reception of Christ himself. However, even in many Protestant traditions, there is a lingering sentiment that the physical elements possess a quasi magical quality, that grace is infused into the believer simply through the swallow. This is where the danger lies. If we insist that one must eat to receive grace, we risk drifting away from sola fide, or faith alone, and toward a form of sacramentalism that borders on the mechanical. Why would God not have us believe that the mere act of eating and drinking transfers grace? The primary biblical evidence points towards a spiritual rather than biological transaction. In Mark 7:18 through 19, Jesus explicitly states that nothing entering a person from the outside can defile them because it does not enter their heart but their stomach. By extension, the inverse holds true. The spiritual life and grace are matters of the heart and the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, not substances possessed or processed by the gallbladder. In John 6, when Jesus speaks of eating his flesh, he clarifies the metaphor in verse 63. It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh is no help at all. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life. The eating Jesus refers to is a spiritual feeding through faith. If grace were transferred via the physical element, the element would be doing the work that only the Holy Spirit is commissioned to do. When Christ instituted the meal, he said, "Do this in remembrance of me," Luke 22:19. Remembrance is a cognitive, spiritual, and relational act. If the bread itself transferred grace automatically, the command to remember would be secondary to the command to swallow. Grace is a gift of God received through faith, not a substance contained within a molecule. While the Lord's Supper is a profound means of grace where the believer meets Christ spiritually, we must be careful not to treat the table as a vending machine for the soul. God is a spirit, and those who worship him and receive from him do so in spirit and in truth, not merely the mechanics of a meal. Thank you for watching the Truth and Love podcast.